everyone, welcome back. You join me in my truck in the beautiful fall season of New England, and we're taking the motor to get refreshed. If you're new to the channel or a returning viewer or subscriber, thank you so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. Please consider subscribing if you have not already. I'm not asking you to pay no money. I don't want anything from y'all. Maybe someday I'll put together stickers or merchandise or something like that, but just watching and sharing and helping me out that way does wonders for what we're trying to do here. And we're trying to essentially use YouTube to make the race car self-sufficient. Who knows if that day will ever come, but we're getting there slowly, and it's thanks to all of you. I'm on my way to Massachusetts to drop my engine off. I apologize for the noise because, well, my truck's loud. As you can see, it says diesel behind me, so clearly it's loud. But anyway, we're headed up to the authorized rebuilder for Stafford Speedway. He's gonna get it refreshed for me, and we're going to get it resealed, run on the dyno, everything, and we'll have a nice fresh bullet to put back in this brand new car to put everything in its place to try to make this thing as good as we can possibly make it for next year. I'm gonna get back to driving because luckily I'm still not on the highway yet, and this is a very open road, but I don't want to have any problems. I don't want people to be doing this type of thing, so pay attention to the road. I'll catch up with you. Thank you, Donnie. They're good people. They do a lot of really good work, and a lot of guys get helped out by them. And they said they'll have it ready about 3 weeks. So I would have taken you on a tour of the place, but other people have done that, and I might even link the video if I remember to do that. I'm not too sure yet, but engine is dropped off. Papers are set up. Everything's there. He's gonna set it all up for me, and hopefully we'll be good to go with a nice fresh bullet. But I am on my way home, and another hour and a half on Massachusetts lovely roads. We'll see you when we get home. Well, it's the next day. Motor's off to get fixed up and refreshed, and hopefully as good as new. Maybe even better. That would be nice too, because that wouldn't be a bad thing. But anyway, now's a really good time to take that rear end out because nothing's attached to it except for trailing arms, shocks, and springs, and get the one that I had been playing with over here in the corner, pull that thing out and get that thing set up inside the chassis, because now, well, the brakes are fixed. So now we can actually just take it and slide it underneath the car get the, oh, here they are, the spring perches lined up and figured out. And we can also get the brake caliper brackets hashed out and what kind of brake rotors we have to use and stuff like that. So good chance to get that done, especially since we're experiencing a little bit of warm weather again. So that'll be nice to do instead of working in the cold like I'd mentioned before. So let's get that out, that in, and let's start figuring that out too. As I drag this thing's poor carcass out, I'm looking at it and I'm saying to myself, you know, this rear is gonna have to get looked at, because I'm looking down here at the axle seals, and these things don't have internal axle seals, they got external ones, and this thing's awful weepy. No, so I look inside the drum, well, rotor, whatever, and I can see a little bit of staining and moisture, so that's not great. Then I come to the other side and I look at the exact same one. It looks the exact same way, except this rotor, you can actually see me leaving fingerprints. It's not because my hand's dirty. See how I'm leaving streaking here? Right here like this? That's because there's some kind of greasy material on this rotor. And I look at the pads and I feel those and I'm like, that doesn't feel great. Yep, that's some kind of oil. Can't smell. Anyway, yeah, this is bad. I'm glad I caught this too. So you have to find some new brake pads because those are probably oil impregnated. And we're gonna have to do new seals and axle stuff on that rear end. However, that one's not really our main concern. That's our backup. Our main concern is brand new. And this one has not only inner, but also outer axle seals. You can see on the axles themselves that they have seals built in, which I will also be trying to seal up. But there's also going to be axle tube seals. I'm going to grease the hell out of these bearings when I put them in. And then we're going to put inner axle seals in to keep the oil from sloshing out of the rear. So that hopefully, fingers crossed, we won't have this issue with this new rear. Are making some progress here. Had to do a little bit of work to get the bushing for the uppers fixed because they come with bushings, but apparently they were set for stock size bolts, not 1/2-inch bolts, which I prefer running 1/2-inch bolts whenever I run anything on a car like this. Especially, you'll notice the gold tint to it. That is grade 8. So all right, so this thing's coming along. And by the way, when you're putting these spring perches in on a bare axle, it's really not that hard. I mean, you kind of stuff some springs into it like I did. I usually use the same rate because then it'll pick the rear end up equally. I don't know if that really matters or not. But you don't have to go crazy when you weld these things on either. The spring pressure is going to hold it onto the axle tube. That's not going anywhere. The weight of the car is holding that down as well. So I just give it like an inch-long tack here and an inch-long tack on the back, and I've never had one fall off, move, or do anything unless the entire rear end gets ripped out of the car. And in that case, you already got bigger problems. So I'm actually quite proud of how easily that thing bolted in. That rear end came off a jig from Speedway Motors, and this car came off a jig from ZR Fabrication. So the thing just bolts right up. I mean, in my old car, I was having all sorts of problems with bolting up rear ends until I swapped the rear clip on it, which if I remember again, maybe I'll put that up in the corner there. You guys can go look at some back catalog stuff if you're new. But at any rate, I really kind of like a Ford 9-inch, you know, just because they're beefy. Will it cost me a little bit of speed? Probably. Will it be a lot more bulletproof? Definitely. Will it be a lot stronger? For sure. It's just a little heavier, that's all. So you get what you pay for when it comes to that. But if I get really froggy, I'll throw the stock one back in if I really want lightweight. But then again, you run the risk of tacoing the thing if you go through the infield too hard. All right, what's next? We got to put the thing back together. Right, so we're going to have to slide the center section back in. We're going to have to put the axles in and mock up where the brake rotors are going to sit clearly. I want everything to be perfect. I want all the mocking up done at, once. And then we'll redisassemble everything. We'll spray paint everything once we get the brake brackets on. And then from there, once it's spray painted, cooled off, everything, we can put the chuck in for good. Hopefully, I'll find a paper gasket. I might hop on Amazon and go get one, because paper gaskets with a Ford 9-inch rear is so much better than using any sort of silicone, because you'll never get that damn thing off. Anyway, I know I'm talking a lot, but this is all important. So we'll get the center in, we'll slide the axles in, and we'll figure out their depth as well, which I got a bunch of washers and lock nuts and stuff. So that'll fit. And we'll get those set properly. Once we get the axles in the center in, we can do the brakes. After that, we'll disassemble, reassemble. As you can tell, it's actually a little warm out for October. I'm not used to this. I can get used to it. Trust me, I don't like the cold. I'd rather it be warm. If it was 75 degrees all year round, I'd be happy. Even 80. 80's fine. I can live with that. Anyway, this is coming along really well, and I'm very happy with it so far. I'm just glad I bought new stuff instead of having to deal with old, bent things like usual. I'm not used to new stuff. So you can tell I'm not used to it because I wrecked it already. But at either rate, I've reached the end of my work today because, man, I got a very, very busy week ahead of me, and I don't know if I'll really be able to get out on the car very much. So I'm trying to get as much squeezed in as I possibly can, because I got a lot going on behind the scenes, and I don't want you guys to go without a video. So I'll come back tomorrow. We'll have that thing back together, and maybe we'll have the brakes mocked up. It's actually pretty late the next day. It's like 8 o'clock at night, and I just got out here, and it's only Wednesday. So it's, it's going to be a little rough for the next week or so, but just on scheduling and things going around in life. And this is kind of my escape. Being out here in the shop is kind of my escape. I don't really want to be away from family. I just want to be away from problems, So it's like I kind of come out here to just kind of decompress and be out here and think and stay busy by working and doing all that to keep my mind occupied. And I think that we're going to just continue on with what we were doing. We're just going to keep doing the rear end stuff like we wanted, and hopefully we can get some progress made. I want this rear done by the end of this video, because boy, there ain't going to be a heck of a lot to show you if that doesn't happen. So we're going to go underneath and stuff the rear chuck in and put the axles in so that we can at least mock up where we're going to weld the brake rotor bracket, or brake caliper bracket, I should say. And I'm going to pull it all apart because I don't know where on the tube it's going to end up. And if the bearings are in there, I don't want to heat up the housing and hurt the bearings, or burn grease or anything like that. So I really just want to mock it up and then take it back apart so that nothing gets hot. So I'm just going to hop under and shove the rear gears up in the carrier, bolt it in a little bit, and go from there. mocked up. I'm trying to figure out which brake rotor I can use because I've got these old ones that are a little bit more dished, but they're two-piece. That seems to be the right one. Now the other ones you're allowed to run are these, and what's hilarious is I think they're both off of like an 88 Camaro IROC. And I'm looking at it, and I don't think that's got enough dish. I don't think those rotors are going to work. They will work on this rear, so we'll just take them and leave them with that one. But I'm going to need a deeper dish, so I might have to hop on old Rock Auto and pick up a pair of brand new ones. I might check some new pads for the rear as well, just because the pads that I have went with these rotors. And if I got to buy new ones, well, I'll buy new ones, but I know there's two different kinds for the IROC, and one's a little bit deeper than the other one. This is, or it might be Camaro and IROC. These might be the IROCs. I'm not sure. I got to go look it up online, but I know there's two different Camaro years you can use, so probably have to put the other ones on order, but I do have some two-piece ones just kind of hanging out on the shelf. I got some old two-piece brake rotors and hats, and I just got to bolt one of them together so I can mock it up at least. And I might even be able to use this. Sounds like steel. Yeah, well, we'll see. I'll have to go check the rule book unless they want me to run the stock one-piece ones, but either way, it's coming along. I forgot I had the jack over here, and it's tweaking the rear end all out of proportion. I'll go move that, and we'll keep mocking up, and then when we start throwing sparks, I'll let you know. Got my assistant in place. The brackets are pretty much exactly where I need them on both sides. I think we're going to go ahead and tack in where the mounts go. Maybe run a little bead down it while there's still stuff in there, but like I said, I wanted to kind of get it tacked in place and then kind of pull the axles out because I'm worried about the heat around the bearing area possibly heating up and hurting the race or the bearing itself. I'd really rather pull everything out and make sure that if the housing gets hot from welding, which it will, it has an opportunity to simply cool off using just atmosphere, you know? Nothing in the way, nothing interfering, just ambient temperature, let it cool off naturally. I'm just kind of worried about heat expansion and the bearing races and stuff like that. I don't want the housing to expand and either lock the race in, melt stuff, hurt the bearing, you know, you name it. We're adding heat in a place where these races are not supposed to have a lot of heat. They're supposed to be essentially just wheel bearings. You know, they're not supposed to be taking a few hundred or 1,000 degrees of welding temperature. So just kind of trying to be as cautious as humanly possible. And I also need to get this done because it's getting very late. But we're at least at the point now where we can start tacking things in place. Well, I'm continuing the teardown process, and I forgot that by welding this bracket on here, which, to be fair, you don't have a lot of choice because anywhere you weld it onto here, you're going to encounter the problem where these studs will now no longer come out. But that's okay because shouldn't really be hammering on those things too bad anyway. Plus, you're only really tightening them by hand and making sure the seal doesn't get damaged. And I got literally 50 nylock nuts so that we can accommodate for it. But I really wanted to get further than this, but we've already pretty much run out of time for the day. And I'm sorry, guys, but this week it kind of is what it is because I've got a lot of other important things going on this week that really don't offer me a lot of time to get out here right now, and you're gonna find that if you do this sort of thing. If you do everything yourself, or if you have a race team, or you do something like this, things are gonna happen. Some days and some weeks, you don't even make it out here. But I feel like I have an obligation to y'all for all that you've done for me, and all the subscribers and all the people who've come on board and all the people who've shared me to Facebook groups and pages and all sorts of stuff to help me out. And you know, it's been pretty awesome, I'll tell you that. It's really neat. That I know that we're pretty small potatoes, but if you grouped, you know, a little over 1,000 people in one place, it's a lot of people, and I appreciate every single one of you, like I said. But I will be back. I'll be out here a couple more days. We're not done by any stretch in this video. It's just that it's kind of limping along right now, and we're not getting a lot done per day. But like I said, in the background, you got to take care of what really matters in this world, and that's your family, and that's kind of what I'm doing right now. And whatever spare moment I get in passing, I guess I'll just go spend it out here and, you know, do what I can. But I might not see you tomorrow, but I might see you the next day. Hey guys, it's been a couple days, but I'll tell you, when I say it's been a couple days, it's been a week. Like, oh, it's been very busy, very, very busy. So I'm working on my road car because, well, this is kind of on the back burner. The race car is, everything is. This is my daily driver. It has 252,000 miles on it. It's been totaled, as you can tell, but I rebuilt it and never told the DMV because we don't have inspections in this state, which is awesome. But I've lost brakes. I'm working on it to see if I can get brakes back in it because, well, I kind of need to get to work, and I don't feel like driving the Crown Vic, which has a bad oil filter housing gasket and leaks oil and smokes. So that's fun. But anyway, if you guys want to see more like real world stuff like this, like just mechanic stuff, like shade tree mechanic junk, which is literally what we're doing out here, let me know in the comments, because I'd love to share that with you as well if we get a little light on the racing content. But I'm going to keep working on this thing and trying to figure out why it doesn't have brakes. And maybe I'll show you some of that too. So like I said, guys, I'm under my 250,000+ mile Ford Focus here, and I found a brake line leak. Now, the problem is I thought the master cylinder was going bad because the brake light never went off. And usually if you lose fluid, it typically goes off. But you know, underside of this car does not look that terrible. It is rusty. I live in Connecticut. What do you expect? Don't look over there at all. Which is weird. Usually the right side gets hammered. But the brake line in question goes up under here, underneath this giant fuel tank, which isn't big. It's a full, oh, hello. There's a rust spot happening there. I should probably do something about that before it gets bad. But then it goes over to this block of brakes and brake lines and such, because apparently every single individual line comes off the master, because of course. So instead of pulling the fuel tank and all these little things and all this other garbage, I'm just going to take it off here at the bulkhead, run a line down to where it joins up here, because I will have taken that divider off, cut off the line in question, and just run a line straight to there because I don't care. Will brake fluid get to it? Will the car stop? Also yes. Do I care about factory routing on a car this old, or really any car? No. All I care about is getting to work. Well, I have a metric bubble flare set that I typically use for like European cars, but they come in handy on a lot of American stuff as well. You can see I cut the old line off and just left it because I ran this one down here and I joined it into there, and that should be good to go. Apparently these kinds of cars come with individual lines off the master cylinder, which is kind of weird to me. I'm like, that seems like a bad failure point. And I figured they'd learn their lesson by having front and rear divided masters, but apparently not. This was a fleet vehicle for the state of Connecticut, which explains a lot because it doesn't even have ABS. It does have air conditioning, doesn't work, but either way, I think we're good here. I'm gonna button this back up and get back to work on that thing. Guys, it happened again. If you actually follow me on TikTok, which I don't post on, I think I got like 5 videos or something, but I don't use it for anything because I have YouTube. Why would I need that? You can also tell that I'm very bad at social media. But it happened again. This is a warning. If you don't want to see gross stuff, look away or fast forward for about 15 to 20 seconds. So I'm pouring out this can of gear oil. What is their affinity with my freaking gear oil? Okay, so that's enough. I think I'll go pour this out and get rid of that contaminated mess, and I'll get back to you guys. Anyways, back to work on this thing. We got the brake caliper bracket, I guess, whatever you call it, mocked up, sitting right here waiting for me to weld it up. So, like I said before, we're going to pull the axles out of it and make sure that that's a nice, safe place for those to be, because I don't want to overheat the bearings like I'd mentioned. But I also got a paper gasket coming from Amazon for the Ford 9-inch. Or hopefully that'll hold the gear oil in, because I don't feel like using RTV, because that really just cements the thing in there. You can never get it apart. It sucks. It stops it from leaking, but you can never get it apart. So I'm going to go yank these axles out and get to work welding it back up. Check it out, one factory mounted Ford 9-inch, brand new. Things are phantomly falling over on the side of the shop again. Okay, so there's ghosts, but anyway, I gotta pull the center section out because we still have to reassemble a lot of this. And I got the gasket coming hopefully tomorrow, according to Amazon. So we're going to pull the pumpkin out, or the center section out of the pumpkin, whatever freaking terminology you guys like to use, I don't care. But I'm going to pull that out. We're going to grease the inner axle seals, like we're going to stuff them with grease. Then we're going to stick them in the axle tubes, right, towards the middle of the center section, so it keeps all the oil in. Then we're going to put the gasket on, install the third member. Then we're going to put the axles in, all the brake components on, including the rotor, and then put oil in it, tighten everything down, which I've already done the suspension mounts, shocks, and we're done. So while we wait for the paint to dry and for the gaskets to come in, I think I'm going to go try that solenoid out, because I looked at a few diagrams and they're very similar, but a lot of them have it different. And I don't remember them necessarily needing to be hooked up a specific way, but then again, I haven't done it in so long, I could be wrong. So let's go check that out and let's see if that makes any difference whatsoever. I can't really completely test it because the motor's not here, the starter's not in the car, but maybe I could hook the starter up. I don't know, but Should probably open a door because it's awfully foggy in here because I painted that rear. So having the motor out is actually quite convenient. Having 50 pounds of Speedy Dry under my feet because we dropped all the oil out of the transmission kind of isn't. So at least the main power switch is off, so there's absolutely nothing going to this. And I don't know why I grabbed a 3/8 because I don't need to change that one. At any rate, like I said, I kind of looked online to see what a random remote solenoid wiring setup looked like. Oh, good, I needed that. And these are typically a Ford or Dodge unit, but I don't know what this one is technically. But unfortunately, all of this is going to look kind of weird because I, loomed it to go over here. Now it's going to be going over here, and there's going to be extra wire. But does that really matter? Let's just get these all taken off. I know this looks like a kind of jumbled mess, and it should look a lot cleaner than this. And this one's now really tight. But you know what? Now it won't be so tight, I guess. Let's just see if this really makes a difference here. Let's go. Like if I turn the battery switch on, oops, I missed one. Is it going to click the solenoid on, or is it actually going to work? Not too sure yet. But I'm not an expert in wiring, and y'all try to push me in the right direction, which is nice, instead of calling me names and stuff like normal people would. But the racing community, they're nice people, and they've always been nice people for the most part. Won't say everybody is, but for the most part, everybody's pretty nice, and they usually try to help each other out. And that's what I'm trying to do with this channel, is help people out. And if I get it wrong, well, that's really not helpful now, is it? Really probably could have been a 12 millimeter there, but yeah, it skipped. That's okay. Any rate, we'll get this put on. And by the way, if you want to see more of me like live action working instead of just doing this on time lapse, let me know. Like I said, I'm always down for changes. Yeah, look at that. That's a 12. Anyway, I'm always down to change stuff. I'm always down to try new things. I'll get a 12 millimeter and do that the right way. I think that might be a 10 mil then. Yeah, because that's a 3/8, so that's probably a 10 mil. That's probably a 12 mil. That's okay. I'm used to that kind of thing. But if you want me to do more like live action working instead of doing it on time lapse, like I said, we could always try something new. So feel free to let me know. I'm too fat. Okay. I didn't hear the thing click, so let's try this. Oh, it works. All right. Well, I don't know if there's something in the wiring of the solenoid that allows it to backfeed power, because it turns, like somebody commented and said, hey, it might be a permanent magnet starter, might be backfeeding power back into the solenoid and acting as its own generator. And I'm like, huh, maybe that is it. So I got it turned around. We're going to see what it does now. Maybe that'll help. Like I said, maybe there's some kind of internal wiring in the solenoid that stops it from backfeeding. Maybe the power wire being on the starter post side kind of shuts it off from the power going down to the starter, and the starter wire isn't backfeeding that specific post. Yeah, maybe I had it backwards. I don't know. I don't know how solenoids are built. I'll probably end up Googling it on here anyway, but hopefully that fixes our situation. Maybe it was just a simple mistake of me not realizing that I put the posts on the wrong side. It worked. It just wasn't working properly, and which that's kind of what we needed. We needed to work properly. At any rate, I'm getting out here. You know, tomorrow I'll be here all day. Hopefully that part shows up. Hopefully the gasket shows up. If the gasket doesn't show up, I'm just going to RTV it so we get this video out and get the thing done, because I don't want to leave you guys hanging being like, well, you know, we did most of the rear. No, I want finality to this. I want I want to make sure that we actually get something all the way done, because what's the point in getting something half done and trying to shove a video out and say, here you go, have at it. No, that's not good enough. So tomorrow, come hell or high water, this rear will be not only sealed, gasketed, put back together, greased, whatever the case may be, but the brakes are going on it. I'm going to sit in that car and I'm going to hit the pedal and make sure things don't go awry with the braking system again. But that'll be for tomorrow, and hopefully whoever has my stuff will show up on time. All right, guys, I finally got back out to the shop today after taking care of family stuff all day. Amazon has come through because I got me a gasket. Hopefully. It says it's a 4 9-inch gasket. It's just a paper one. I wanted to get the lube blocker one that you could reuse. That's like $30, but I'm like, I don't plan on changing the rear gear at all, so why don't we just throw one in there for $3 and hope for the best. So reassembly is going to commence now. We are going to get the center chuck out because it's still in there from mock-up. We have to take that out, put the axle seals in. The inner axle seals have to go in. We have to grease those so that they don't just completely burn up the second you put them in. Then we have to put the center back in with the gasket, run that down, and then we can put the axles in, grease the bearings. I'll show you how I'm going to do that in a second. We're going to grease those up to make sure that they're good, because there's not going to be gear oil bathing that. We have to make sure there's actual grease in it, which it has, but I want to make sure there's more. So I'm going to pack those. Then we're going to bolt that in. Final step, put in some gear oil. Like usual, pardon the mess, but these are my inner axle seals. Yes, I could have bought nicer ones, but apparently I accidentally bought 4 of these, so I'm just using what I got. Now, when you put these in, what they want you to do is they want you to put low temperature grease and just like pack these with low temperature grease. What is that, and why do I feel something in there? That's my glove, because my glove's folded over. Of course. So either way, I'm just going to grab whatever grease I got, jam it in here, and hopefully that will be enough to at least keep the axle lubricated as it's inside of here. But what I also do is I grease the fascia down. And this time when I put these in, I was thinking, I'm not sure if I'm going to yet or not, but I was thinking of taking and RTVing around the edge once they're already pressed into the axle tube. Well, they're not really pressed. You take them and by hand, you kind of reach in the center hole and push them into the axle tube, but you don't want to go too far. Usually it's right on the edge, and then pray that it stays, essentially. If you got a straight rear, it should stay. But with these, I grease the axles themselves. Like, I will take and I will put whatever has to go through that seal, I'll grease it all the way down. Doesn't matter. I don't care. As long as it's got a thin layer of grease on it so that it will not hurt this seal. That goes for any seal as well, because they make nicer ones than this that have like aluminum and a bunch of O-rings, and they're actually, you know, sized to fit properly. But at the end of the day, you're still dealing with a small rubber diaphragm. So you got to take care of that, because the axle is going to be spinning inside of that rubber diaphragm. So, like I said, some of the gear oil is going to hit the interface, and it's going to help lubricate that. It might leak through to this side. I've always had a very small amount of leak through. But I just do what they say. Grease it, pack the inside, make sure that you got something in there to lubricate the axles while they spin. Grease the front and back, grease the axle. Make sure that they will not gall up the seal or get it hot where it'll burn it up. There's one of them. Kind of pushed in there pretty good. Got the other one in there. Gave it a couple inches of gap. Shouldn't be too big a deal. this thing looks pretty clean. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to grab the gasket, set that on there after I wipe this down. For some reason, it's got oil on it. Probably some residual from the third member right here that's, you know, just kind of been sitting there forever. We'll just give her a quick little, oh, I got a rag right here. I'm going to wipe her down. Just make sure that the gasket's going to seat well. And we'll throw that paper gasket on, stuff that center section that's ready to go that we've put on in a previous episode. Again, these cars have open differentials. And I know everybody across the country is like, why? Well, if you've ever seen them race or if you've ever driven one, I can categorically say that the racing is better. Because, not on dirt, definitely not, but it allows people to make more mistakes. Because you can wheel hop easier and it's harder for you to get the thing to handle and have traction. So you got to be real good. So, all right, we're going to throw this thing together, toss you on time lapse because we're going to do the whole thing. Now, because I was busy putting grease in my hair by bumping up against the freshly greased axle that I just put in, I forgot to show you how I was using this little needle thing to grease these sealed bearings. Now, there's a little gap on the back side of the bearing. I'll demonstrate with this one since it's already out. See this little gap back here? They've already greased this. This is technically supposed to be a sealed bearing, but it's just not because you see the seal comes off. So I don't know how this is staying on, but I could go research that later, I suppose. But I just stick that little needle thing down into here in between all the little rollers, and I just force more grease into it just to be safe, because you never know. You know, you want to make sure things have enough lubrication, especially in a race car, where you're not going to have some issue with lubrication, because that's the easiest way for you to have something go wrong in a race car on any form, is that. Speaking of which, just so the mice don't get in here and think that that's food, we'll cap that up because I don't feel like digging them out. All right, I'm just going to keep on bolting this thing together, and then once the axles go in, I'm feeding them in real slow so I don't bump into the side of the axle seal and shove it into the center section there. I'm actually just kind of being very gentle, and once it hits the edge of the seal, I just kind of ease and wiggle it back and forth so that the lubrication can not push it back, but get through the seal, and we can get it into the center section, bolted on, without doing any harm. Check it out. Rear is installed, and boy, did it fit well, because like I said, everything here is pretty new. I mean, the trailing arms I've used in my old car for a little while, but they're still straight, so that doesn't matter. Shocks are new, but they were in the last car too. Rear end is brand new from Speedway off the jig. This car is brand new, freshly off the jig twice. So it bolted right up. Perfect. My old chassis, I don't know, for whatever reason, that car had such a problem getting rear ends put into it. Then I reclipped it, and it got a little bit better, but, I mean, it's factory stuff, and that tolerance is not exactly great, especially for 1980s General Motors. Woof. So anyway, now that I got the shocks in, springs in, brakes in, everything's in, Shock angles look good. They look factory. Everything looks straight up and down. That's good. Obviously, it's not completely perfect because, you know, it's not so level garage. But the only thing we're missing is oil. And usually, wow, I am actually trapped. There we go. Wow, I have a complete mess to clean up. Like usual. Usually what I use for these types of things is a nice, clean, synthetic oil. This time, nope. Napa 8090 gear oil. I'm just kind of, I don't know. The way things are nowadays, everything is so expensive. It's like, man, you know, I've never had a problem with just gear oil. You know, as long as the car has oil in it to the right amount, it's never failed on me for that reason. It's only failed because of impact or damage or anything else. But look, you know, like I said, if you really want to go fast, you can go and you can spend a whole ton of money on synthetic oils and this and that. But look, I've never noticed a difference. So we're going to grab 4 quarts of this. Oh, there's my oil change for my Focus that I still have to do. Oh, it's still sunny out. I can probably get it done. And we're going to go force all these down its neck. And, yeah, I did say 4 quarts. Because a Ford... Oh, I hope that didn't open. A Ford 9-inch. It can be with its friends. A Ford 9-inch is a very big housing. It's very deep, and it's very wide as well when you compare it with a factory GM 7-inch rear, or 7.5-inch rear, I should say. The 7.5 is not very deep, and it's also pretty narrow. It's got a very sharp dish to it. This is very wide, like this. It's got a very low angle, and it's wider, and it's taller. It takes a lot more fluid. You ask anybody, they'll tell you, yeah, 4 quarts, dude. Fill it up. So I usually put 4 in. Not sure if that's really how much they're supposed to take, but I haven't burned up a gear. And to be honest with you, these Ford 9-inches, whenever I put that much fluid in them, they don't even look used when I'm done with them. Clearly, I'll go look the spec up, you know, in a second, because I have a computer in my pocket that can tell me anything in the world, called a cell phone. I can Google or search or whatever the specs are for a Ford 9-inch and see what the actual factory amount of oil is. But like I said, I used to run like 2.5 to 2 3/4 quarts in a GM 7.5. I mean, that's a lot for those little things. And it typically helps because when you're in the turns, it sloshes over to the side, and sometimes it runs down the axle tube in a 7.5. So what you're doing is you're making sure you have insurance inside the rear end in case that stuff rolls out of there. With this, it's the exact same thing. There's a lot of sideways momentum. There's a lot of sloshing. You want to make sure you have enough to sling from the ring gear up into the pinion and lubricate the pinion as well as the side carrier bearings. So make sure you don't run too little oil in your rear diff, or you're going to be in pit road before that feature's over. So I'll go look it up just to be sure. I'll come back if something changes, but we're going to go fill this rear end up. And hopefully, fingers crossed, this is finally ready. Okay, so I Googled how much a Ford 9-inch actually takes for oil. They said anywhere between 2.5 to 5 quarts. Really specific. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put however much I want in there and hope for the best. And like I said, yeah, I know a lot of people will put a low amount of oil in because they want less interference and less drag from whipping through the oil and stuff. But it's like, would you rather have that or would you rather have the rear end blow up? So it's up to you, completely up to you. If you have a street car, fill it up to the sight hole. That's fine. You know, personally, I can't get the sight hole off of mine. It's wedged in there. And I don't fill from there anyway. There's a fill port on the back that's about this big around, and I can just jam a bottle in there. But use your discretion. You know, it's your car. You do what you want. Personally, I'm going to overfill it. Like I said, a GM 7.5 takes like less than 2 quarts. I put like 2.5 in there. This thing probably takes 3. I'll probably put 4. Like I said, it's all in what you want to do. But it's up to you. Google it yourself. Do whatever you want to do. But just make sure that it doesn't blow up. As you can see, the sun is setting. Well, not only the day, but yet another video. And I just wanted to thank you all for your patience and all the time that you spend watching my stuff and telling people and sharing me and doing all that for me. I really do appreciate it. Like I said, this is small potatoes YouTubing here, but I'm just a short track racer with a day job, as my channel description says. And, you know, as a family man, I got to take care of them sometimes, and that supersedes everything that I do here, which should in your life too. You should take care of those around you and the people you care about as well. Nothing should come between family. And that's pretty much it. I mean, you got to know what's right, and you got to do what's right, and you got to have your priorities in order. And that's pretty much what I did this video. But I did manage to come out here and put some stuff together for you guys and keep you all in the loop and get a little progress done on this car as well while we're at it. So like I said, as the sun begins to set and the temperature starts to come down, I'm going to grab this little can of spray paint here and get to work and throw a little touch up on this thing. Long distance. Yeah. I think I'll let it air out in here a little bit after that, but tell you what, it came together before and it'll do it again, and we're gonna try our best yet again, but it's a 6-month wait still. So boy, I hope I got something fun to show you people, but I think I do in the future, and I really hope I can get that thing in here before winter. And I really want to start this secret project that I've had planned for a long time, but this thing kind of takes precedent. I really need this thing to be done first, and damn it, I really want that other one going. But anyway, thank you all again. I greatly appreciate every one of you. I greatly appreciate your patience, your kindness, your efforts, your comments, anything that you can do to help me out. Like I said, I ain't asking for nothing from you except for to watch and subscribe, and maybe someday I'll come up with merch if you want to have something fun and help the channel out. And we'll see what happens in the future, clearly. But I just started getting Google to pay me money, and let's be fair, it's not a lot until you get a lot of people following you, but it's better than nothing, I guess, you know. So someday maybe this will become self-sufficient, but we're not at that point yet, and maybe someday we'll get there. But until that happens, thank you all again. I greatly appreciate it. If you know anybody who'd be interested in subscribing to this type of thing, send them my way. Again, thank you all. I appreciate it. Until next time.